Level 1, the first opportunity. You don't wake up one morning and decide to become an arms dealer. It usually starts with something much smaller. Maybe you work for a defense contractor, a logistics company, or a licensed firearms distributor. At first, you're simply moving inventory, organizing shipments, or handling paperwork. Everything appears completely legal. Every firearm has a serial number. Every crate has documentation. Every buyer has a license. To the outside world, you're just another employee working in the defense industry. But before long, you begin noticing something different. The contracts are worth millions. Meetings happen behind closed doors. Certain clients demand absolute discretion. Nobody tells you to stop asking questions, but you quickly realize the people who ask the fewest questions tend to move up the fastest. Without realizing it, you've taken your first step into one of the most secretive industries on earth. Level 2, learning the business. As you gain experience, you discover that modern arms dealing isn't about standing in dark warehouses surrounded by crates of weapons like the movies suggest. It's a business built on relationships, regulations, and logistics. Manufacturers build the equipment, governments approve exports, shipping companies transport the cargo, lawyers review contracts, compliance officers verify every license, brokers connect buyers with sellers. A single international deal can involve dozens of companies spread across multiple countries before a shipment ever leaves the factory. You spend far more time reading contracts than handling weapons. Success doesn't come from intimidation. It comes from knowing how to navigate an incredibly complex system without making costly mistakes. Level 3, building your network. Before long, your phone becomes your most valuable weapon. Every successful deal introduces you to someone new. Defense manufacturers, logistics companies, customs officials, freight specialists, private security firms, and government procurement offices slowly become part of your professional network. In this industry, trust is worth more than money. Companies don't work with people they don't know. Governments don't sign contracts with brokers who have a questionable reputation. Every successful transaction builds your credibility. Every failed one follows you forever. You begin realizing that your greatest asset isn't the products you sell. It's the confidence other people have in your ability to deliver exactly what you promised. Level 4, understanding global demand. As your network grows, so does your understanding of the global defense market. Almost every country purchases military equipment in one form or another. Some need replacement parts for aging aircraft. Others modernize their armored vehicles or upgrade communication systems. Police agencies acquire specialized equipment. Border security expands surveillance technology. Defense spending reaches hundreds of billions of dollars every year because governments constantly prepare for threats they hope never happen. You begin seeing the industry differently. It's no longer about individual weapons. It's about national security, international politics, technological innovation, and enormous financial contracts. The scale is far larger than you ever imagined. Level 5, entering a highly regulated world. By now you've learned the biggest misconception about arms dealing. Most people imagine it's an industry without rules. In reality, it's one of the most heavily regulated businesses in the world. Export licenses, import permits, customs inspections, end-user certificates, sanctions lists, international treaties, and government oversight shape nearly every legitimate transaction. One missing document can delay a shipment for months. One compliance failure can end a career. The higher you climb, the less freedom you actually have. Every decision is scrutinized. Every contract is reviewed. Every shipment is tracked. And you quickly realize that moving military equipment isn't simply about making sales. It's about operating inside one of the most complex legal and political systems on the planet. But as your reputation grows, so do the opportunities. And eventually, you'll find yourself negotiating deals that can influence not just businesses, but entire nations. Level 6, landing your first major contract. After years of proving yourself, the smaller deals begin turning into much larger ones. Instead of coordinating shipments for local distributors, you're now helping facilitate contracts between governments and major defense manufacturers. The numbers become almost unimaginable. A single agreement can be worth tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars. Negotiations stretch on for months. Engineers demonstrate new equipment. Financial experts discuss payment schedules. Lawyers review every clause. Government officials debate national security concerns. You quickly realize these deals aren't completed in a single meeting. They require patience, precision, and trust. One overlooked detail can delay an entire project for months. Level 7, politics changes everything. Just when you think you've mastered the business, you discover who really controls it. Politicians. One election can completely reshape defense spending. A change in foreign policy can freeze contracts overnight. New sanctions can instantly make years of negotiations worthless. Countries that were trusted partners yesterday can become restricted tomorrow. A shipment that's fully approved one week may be suspended the next because diplomatic relations have changed. Unlike most industries, success isn't determined solely by supply and demand. It's heavily influenced by international politics. You begin checking global headlines every morning because a single announcement can affect millions of dollars in business before lunch. Level 8. The competition becomes global. At this level, you're no longer competing with local companies. You're competing against the largest defense firms in the world. Every contract attracts multiple bidders, each offering different technologies, prices, training programs, and long-term support packages. Winning isn't simply about offering the lowest price. Governments want reliability, maintenance, spare parts, technical support, and decades of continued service. A company may spend years building relationships before securing a single contract. Reputation becomes everything. One successful project can lead to another. One failed delivery can permanently damage your credibility across the industry. The higher you climb, the harder every contract becomes to win. Level 9. Managing global logistics. Once a contract is signed, the real work begins. Coordinating an international shipment is a massive operation. Manufacturing schedules must align with shipping timetables. Customs officials inspect documentation. Insurance companies verify cargo. Security teams monitor transportation. Ports schedule arrivals. Government inspectors review export permits one final time before anything crosses a border. Something as simple as a delayed shipment or missing document can create weeks of complications. You discover that modern arms dealing is less about selling equipment and more about managing one of the most complicated supply chains in the world. Every successful delivery depends on hundreds of people doing their jobs perfectly. Level 10. The weight of responsibility. By now, your perspective has completely changed. What once looked like an exciting business now feels like an enormous responsibility. Every contract involves equipment designed for national defense, and every decision carries legal, financial, and geopolitical consequences. Governments enforce strict oversight because the stakes are so high. Every transaction is reviewed, every license is verified, every shipment is tracked. You realize that working in this industry isn't about moving products from one place to another. It's about operating within a system where international law, diplomacy, economics, and security all intersect. And as your influence continues to grow, you begin understanding that the biggest deals aren't measured by the money they generate, they're measured by the impact they can have on the balance of power between nations. Level 11. Becoming an industry insider. After years in the business, you've stopped thinking like a salesperson and started thinking like a strategist. You no longer chase every contract that appears. Instead, governments and manufacturers begin reaching out to you because they trust your experience. You understand which companies specialize in armored vehicles, which produce advanced radar systems, and which manufacturers build the next generation of aircraft and missile defense technology. Relationships you've spent years building now become your greatest advantage. In this industry, information moves almost as fast as the technology itself, and knowing who to call at the right time can be worth more than any product you're selling. Level 12. The pressure never stops. The higher your position, the less room there is for mistakes. Every contract is reviewed by lawyers, regulators, government officials, and financial auditors. Every shipment must meet strict legal requirements before it can leave a factory. A delayed approval can postpone an entire project. A documentation error can trigger investigations across multiple countries. Millions of dollars may depend on a single signature. The public often imagines this industry is filled with action, but the reality is that success comes from precision. The people who last the longest aren't the boldest, they're the ones who consistently avoid costly mistakes. Level 13. Technology changes the industry. The business itself is constantly evolving. Modern defense contracts are no longer focused solely on firearms or ammunition. Governments invest heavily in drones, cyber defense, satellite communications, artificial intelligence, electronic warfare, autonomous vehicles, and advanced surveillance systems. The battlefield is becoming increasingly digital. Winning future contracts depends as much on software engineers and cybersecurity specialists as it does on traditional manufacturers. You realize the definition of an arms dealer has changed dramatically. The industry isn't simply selling equipment anymore. It's helping shape the future of military technology. Level 14. Balancing business and ethics. As your career reaches its highest level, you begin facing questions that don't have easy answers. Every government argues its purchases are necessary for national defense. Every contract promises greater security. Yet every decision also carries enormous responsibility. The defense industry exists because nations prepare for conflicts they hope never occur. It's a business shaped by geopolitics, diplomacy, and deterrence, where every transaction is examined through legal and ethical frameworks established by governments and international agreements. You realize realize that this career is about far more than contracts or revenue. Every decision exists within a much larger conversation about global security and stability. Level 15, the reality of being an arms dealer. At the beginning, you imagined this career would revolve around weapons. Instead, you discovered it revolves around people, trust, law, logistics, politics, and responsibility. The higher you climbed, the less time you spent around military equipment, and the more time you spent managing relationships, navigating regulations, and solving problems that crossed international borders. The biggest contracts weren't won through intimidation. They were earned through reputation, professionalism, and years of experience. The truth. Popular culture often portrays arms dealers as mysterious figures operating in the shadows, but the reality of the legitimate defense industry is far more complex. Behind every approved transaction are manufacturers, engineers, lawyers, compliance officers, logistics experts, financial analysts, diplomats, and government regulators working within extensive legal frameworks. It is one of the most regulated industries in the world because the consequences of every decision can extend far beyond a single company or contract. In the end, the true reality of being an arms dealer isn't living like an action movie villain. It's operating in a world where business, technology, international law, and global politics intersect every single day, and where the smallest decision can have consequences felt around the world.